Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the live streams. It's 6 o'clock, we're on a wee bit earlier than we usually would be. That's because tonight I'm going to be doing the first Football Manager stream of this season for all the channel members. That will be live at 6:30 tonight, or when we conclude this stream here. But until then, we're going to talk about Celtic. We're going to talk about Celtic to everybody because we have updates, we have news, we have actually some big news, as you'll see in the title of the stream and in the thumbnail of the stream. And we also have another couple of things to talk about, something including Daizen Maeda that's broke in the last half hour and his situation heading into the January transfer window. We have a lot to talk about this evening, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to waste too much time. So if you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. If you're watching later on in video format, then sorry you missed out in the live chat. But for yous in there, I want to get all of your points. I want to hear what all of you are saying. And I want to have a generally fun time as Celtic look to make their appointment sometime soon. There is news breaking tonight that Celtic are well underway with that process of trying to appoint the next permanent Celtic manager. And by the sounds of it, listen, this is going off my own kind of estimations here. There hasn't been a quote to say this directly, but by the way that it's sounding, I think Celtic are moving at pace to try and appoint a manager within the next week. I think the aim is to rock up to the next game after this international break with a manager. I think that is the intention, and that's what it's at least sounding like. And if Dermot Desmond and the Celtic board are moving at that pace, then I think we could be in store for an announcement over the next, let's say, 10 days. So there is a lot to talk about. That isn't gospel. This is me talking about my own estimations here. So let me make that crystal clear. I'm not saying that Celtic are definitely going to make an appointment. However, if we look over the news that is coming out tonight, ladies and gentlemen, this was Sky Sports at around 4 o'clock saying that Celtic are now holding talks with various targets in London. The talks are underway, and there are 3 names in particular that are doing the rounds and look to be the top 3 targets for Celtic. Thank you to Matthew Barry, by the way, for becoming a supporter of the channel. These are the 3 names that seem to be at the top of the list, and if I were to put my money on it, I think it will be one of these 3 names. I think it's going to be Wilfried Nancy, Kjetil Knutsen, or Kieran McKenna. Do I know or have any inkling as to which one of the 3 it's going to be? No. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you on stream, and we will talk about all 3 as the stream goes on. I'm sure you all have plenty of opinions that you want to share with me in regard to those 3 names. But according to Sky Sports and the news coming out this afternoon, Celtic have been holding talks in London this week. Those talks are underway and will continue going on in their search for a new manager. Of course, that short list that was spoke about on Monday via Anthony Joseph is very much in play now, and Wilfried Nancy, Knutsen and McKenna are the ones that seem to be leading the way. So the Celtic hierarchy, this is the part that has been added onto that by Sky Sports this evening. The Celtic hierarchy are also due to sit down with interim boss Martin O'Neill and assistant Sean Maloney to discuss their futures beyond the current international break. So we're searching for, of course, a new manager, and other names still on the radar do include Craig Bellamy, Nicky Hyen and Robbie Keane. Of course, Craig Bellamy, who's already publicly distanced himself from the Celtic job, Nicky Hyen, who I don't believe there's a chance in hell that we'll get, and Robbie Keane, who had bigger sights in the Wolves job, so she would be patching him off to the side anyway. I think the most important thing to talk about just very quickly here is that the Celtic hierarchy are going to sit down and apparently talk to Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney. It's very interesting wording that they say that will discuss their futures beyond the current international break. Now, that could mean a number of different things, I think. I think that could mean a number of different things. Let me have a sip of tea here. Number 1, if Celtic were to appoint a manager permanently in the next 10 days in preparation for that first game back after the international break, I think that on the surface, Sean Maloney might get offered the gig as assistant manager, or at least a coach at Celtic, and that will be his future at Celtic Football Club. He had a job before this anyway. Remember, he was, whatever the name of this job was, player pathway manager, or whatever he was doing. You know, he had a job here, so he's not going to suddenly lose his job. I think he will have a recommendation put forward to whoever the next Celtic manager is. I still believe that whoever the next Celtic manager is, whether that's Nancy, whether that's Knutsen, whether that's McKenna, should get first say on who they want to work with. And by that, I mean, if they want to bring their own assistant manager, they should be allowed to do so. I don't think Sean Maloney should be forced on to whoever the new manager is. However, I think they'll be 100% happy with him being on the coaching staff, and if that's what Sean Maloney wants, I'm not against it at all. So I think that's what will happen with his Celtic future. In regards to Martin O'Neill, who is the bigger topic of conversation here, his Celtic future is very, very unclear. Now, if they're going to discuss Martin O'Neill's future, I think it can go down a number of different avenues. Number one, the plain and obvious. We thank him for his time steadying the ship. He moves on and goes back to a world of punditry. That is probably most likely. In the case that Celtic somehow managed to pull off the massive coup that would be Kjetil Knutsen, who, by the way, just to throw it in quicker, I'm going to talk about all three candidates in a moment. In the situation where Celtic pull off the coup of the century, the heist of the century, and get Kjetil Knutsen as their manager, who is the number one target in my eyes, and the number one candidate for the job, in that situation, with Knutsen still got a season to finish, I believe, in Norway, still has Champions League football, I think there is a situation where Martin O'Neill takes charge of Celtic for a little bit longer until Knutsen maybe finishes his league season in Norway. That's one of the options for Martin O'Neill, I think, as well. And the third and final option is that maybe he gets offered something completely out of the blue that none of us really expect, along the lines of a director of football, a club consultant, maybe an ambassador sort of role. I think they're the only real options on the table for Martin O'Neill. If I'm being realistic about it, though, I think Martin O'Neill's time at Celtic is about to come to an end. I think that it's going to be option one, what I said there. If I was to hedge my bets, I think it's going to be thank you for helping us out, you're a legend, and that's that. But I think that the realistic one, aside from that, is we get Knutsen somehow, and Martin O'Neill is here till December when Knutsen's contract expires with Bodo Glimt, and he's ready to come back and manage, or ready to come over and manage Celtic. That's if we get Knutsen. It would be a massive coup. So the big news tonight, of course, is that the Celtic talks are ongoing. Some publications, some journalists reporting that Celtic are moving with a bit of urgency and would ideally like to have the situation resolved before the international break is through. It's a real interesting one. It's a real interesting one, to say the least. So that seems to be that. The Daily Record also, of course, covered it in their own vein this evening, which basically just reiterated a lot of the points that were made by Sky Sports, plus some added waffle. They talked about Barry Murphy and how his name has been discussed at boardroom level. They're conducting the interviews, and a new man could be in place for the clash against St Mirren on November 22nd. So there's not much added in that article, basically just reinforced a lot of the same points we've been talking about, but two of the men here you can see on screen I think are in that final three, and I think the other one is of course Kieran McKenna. I think that we're going to get the chat involved, of course, because I want to get the chat involved tonight, and I think that is such a big part of what we want to do in hearing your opinions. Let me make it clear. If the final three, this is just one man's opinion. I just realised I'm on the wrong screen. Let me just make it clear. This is just my opinion. I think those are the three final candidates for the job. Kjetil Knutsen, Kieran McKenna, and Wilfred Nancy. I would be happy with any of the three. I would. But I don't think a lot of people are going to be happy with certain ones. I'm seeing people in the chat saying absolutely no to McKenna. I'm seeing people saying absolutely no to Nancy. I would be happy with all three. In that order that I said. Knutsen first, McKenna second, Nancy third. That, for me, I'd be happy with any of the three of them. If we can somehow get Kjetil Knutsen, that would be blockbuster. But I'm not unhappy with any. And the point I'll come to is this, right? The point I'll come to is this. Kjetil Knutsen, by far, is the best candidate there. There is no doubt about that. On paper, he ticks every box. He's the perfect appointment. And I don't see a world in which how he fails at Celtic. But can he fail? He absolutely can. He absolutely can. Because anybody, at any job, at any given time, can get it wrong. And Kjetil Knutsen has the potential to get it wrong. As does Wilfred Nancy. So for all the people who are so against the likes of Nancy or McKenna, let me just remind you right now, it can go wrong with any of these guys. Every appointment is a risk. Some carry far more risk than others. But I don't think it's a guarantee that Knutson comes in and does well. It's incredibly likely he does because he seems to be a fantastic coach. But teams have, over the history of football, have hired coaches which on the surface should do well. Whether that's in Scotland, whether that's in England, whether that's all over the continent or the world. People have it's just not worked. It's just not worked for one reason or another. I don't think we're at a situation where anybody's a guaranteed success at Celtic. And that is why I'm open-minded to any of the three. That is why I'm open-minded to the likes of a Wilfred Nancy. Because when we got Ange, and once again, I said this in my video yesterday, and I'll make it clear right now, it's lazy to compare Ange with Wilfred Nancy. They're nothing alike. They're at two completely different points of their career. It would be incredibly lazy to go, oh, look what happened with Ange. But situational circumstances do draw some likeness. He's the unknown. He's the one that's had success in a different continent. He's the one that provides a boost of excitement that I think that Ange brought as well. I'm not saying it has to be any particular person. I'm not saying it has to be Wilfred Nancy. But what I am saying is I am open-minded to the idea of something fresh, of something new, and I'm not turning my nose up at any of those three if they are the final three candidates. I mean, Christ, it was this time 2 weeks ago I was sitting here saying it has to be McKenna. That's who I wanted. That was my first instinct. That was before I believed there was any even a sliver of a chance we could get Kjetil Knutson. So I've changed my tune a little bit. I'd be happy with any of the three, and I'm sure you've got a lot of opinions in the chat about that, and we will come to them. But the point is tonight, Celtic are continuing those talks in London that have apparently been going on for the last week at least. And by the sounds of it, they want to make an appointment over these next 10 days, or at least have an idea of what that appointment might be. So yeah, we're going to come to the chat in a moment or so. A couple of wee stories that I do want to... by the way, Fabrizio Romano, thank you to Jordan Craig for joining the 118 Club. We'll see you in the FM stream later if you're there, brother. I appreciate it. Supporting the channel, top man. Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that, of course, that the links with Wilfred Nancy are solid as well, which I think we already knew were solid anyway. He did say earlier today that he has been offered to Celtic as an option, but the internal discussions at the club are still ongoing. That was the Fabrizio Romano scoop, if you choose to believe that. The only other thing to talk about tonight, before I want to get into the chat, and I want to talk about your thoughts and feelings surrounding the manager situation. But before we do that very, very quickly, I do want to jump into one of these bigger stories for today, and that is the fact that Daizen Maeda and has been spoke about in this last only hour. I think it was the Daily Record who published an article in the last hour or so saying that Daizen Maeda confirmed he will still look to leave Celtic in the January window. And that's no surprise to me. I know there's people who just want to bury their heads in the sand and pretend that's not a possibility and he'll be fine, he'll be happy, he scored recently, he'll kick on and he'll be a better player and he doesn't want to go. I'm absolutely certain Maeda will leave in January. I've been banging that drum since June or July. I said it. I said it months ago. You can go and find the clips. I was almost adamant that he would leave in January. And I think it's almost certainly will. Apparently that is still on the cards. And that was the quotes he said in September, of course, when he was talking about the offer that came and went and didn't go. I think it's all clear to believe and see that Maeda is somebody who does want to go in the January transfer window, and I'm okay with it. Look, we're at a period now of he's going to be so tough to replace, and I'm not going to let this season rewrite my narrative about Daizen as a player and a complete package we've had at Celtic. He's been an absolute joy to watch, and I've loved that about him. I've absolutely loved the different style of player that he is that's came through the door and been here, and I'll appreciate that. But if we're going through change, and Maeda wants change, it's best for all parties that we let that go. We let that happen. So, January, we'll wait and see what happens. We are in a position right now where we're really best placed to sell Daizen Maeda, to be quite honest. But if he wants to go, he goes. And that's that. And the only other big story for tonight, before we get into the chat, and I'm seeing people mention it, I was going to bring it up if you let me get to it, ladies and gentlemen. Goodness sake. This move only moves a certain mile per hour. Sebastian Tedeschi has withdrawn from the Tunisia national squad. There isn't a substantial update declaring the extent of injury that he has pulled out with, but he has been ruled out for the November training camp with Tunisia. That's all there really is about it. Can't say too much other than that right now. So there you go. Right, £5 donation from Adrian Connolly. Thank you, Adrian, saying whoever gets the job will be the 20th permanent manager in Celtic's history, discounting caretaker managers, of course, and managers returning for second spells. So that's an interesting fact. I like that. 20 managers. That's not as many as you would think, would you? Right, let's get into the chat. Let's talk about it all. I keep putting this on the wrong bloody screen. There we go. I've done a lot of... yesterday I spent a lot of time. You might see I've got new transitions and stuff like that, and there was a new intro. I was spending a lot of time yesterday getting the streaming software sorted out in the new PC. So things look a wee bit different, wee bit of teething issues, so apologies for any of that. Right, let's get all your opinions. I want to hear what you're all saying. I want to hear your thoughts in regards to the situation. I'll start with I want to start off with Ads' comment, which I think is I know that the last sentence declares that it's a little bit of a laugh and a joke. If the next manager are McKennie or Nancy, I'm done. Metal Shark's coming out. Nobody, listen, whoever the manager is, unless it's Robbie Keane, whoever the manager is, get behind them. Like, a manager's a manager at the end of the day. There's good appointments, there's bad appointments, and you're fully entitled to believe if it's a good or bad appointment. But what's the point in being against the new Celtic manager? Like, even if you don't like the look of Nancy, right, and he comes in, why would you actively be against the guy? Because if it goes well and he goes on to win a fucking treble, you're just going to look like a twat. So, like, you may as well get behind it, and you judge it with time, man. These are human beings who are good at their jobs. They're in the conversation for a reason. And I'll extend that to the ones that I don't want. Robbie Keane. He's in the conversation for a reason. I'll give him that respect at least. It's not like he's just waltzed his way into the conversation. No, they've done stuff to stand out. Kieran McKenna, not a clown. Wilfred Nancy, not a clown. They aren't clowns. They're very talented football coaches. If it was fucking easy, we'd all be doing it. We'd all be coaching. We'd be applying for the Celtic job. But do you know what? It's not that easy. I will get behind whoever gets that job. Whoever is in charge of Celtic moving forward, I'll get behind them. Just like I got behind Brendan and how I got behind Ange Postecoglou. Christ, I didn't like it, but I got behind Neil Lennon. I done it. And guess what? See, for the first wee part, it actually turned out all right. And then COVID happened. At the end of the day, this is a decision that has been made very, very difficult for Celtic at the point of the year we find ourselves in, and with the state of the club that we're in right now. We are Celtic Football Club in the year 2025, ladies and gentlemen, and you might not like it, but we've not got the pull power of a fucking Manchester United or Liverpool. Our options are extremely limited, and these are talented coaches, and that's that. I'll get behind any of them. I'll get behind any of them. Right, let's keep the chat going. Let's go through. Aaron saying that the 2024 Columbus Crew side is genuinely the most fun I've had watching a non-Celtic team in years. Well, that's a going right up about Wilfred Nancy if you want one right there. Finn, thank you for being a member. Have you heard about Andy Robertson and Celtic, about Celtic and his held talks with Celtic? Listen, the stuff with Andy Robertson is something that I'm not going to get dragged into right now. It feels very similar to the situation with Tierney last year. I said, there's no chance Tierney will return to the club. And he did. I was left with egg on my face because he did actually return. So I'm not going to sit here and say, there's no chance Andy Robertson signs for Celtic. I would just be incredibly surprised. I'm not necessarily dying to see Robertson come to Celtic anyway, so that's probably one of the reasons why I'm not going to spend too much time dwelling on it. I think we need a manager before we need to start thinking about players. And that was the point I raised yesterday when we seen the departure of Jay Lefebvre from the scouting department, and we're like, right, well, how do we replace him now? We should probably get a manager first, because without knowing what fucking football we're playing, signings aren't going to be very useful. So it's something I'm just not focused on just now, Finn. I appreciate your concern in the matter, but I'm not gonna worry about it now. Same with the Stefan Ortega links as well. Is there any truth in it? I don't know. If there, put it this way, right? See if there's truth in it. It just backs up everything Brendan Rodgers said about the club making club signings. We shouldn't be going and signing a keeper without a manager being here to say it. That's like, it's not even like Ortega's a young guy, a keeper that was coming in to develop. You know, if a manager should be going, yep, Ortega, I'll take him. We don't have one. So right now, to me, signings and talk about signings should mean sweet FA. Just one man's opinion. So let's keep going. Thank you, Bernard, for becoming a member of the 118 Club. It's nice to have you. Thank you for supporting the channel. Love it, mate. God bless you. DM McDonald Murray saying, nail on the head, Ryan. Ultimately, we either get an up-and-coming manager, an older guy who's managing the top on the way down, or very rarely you get lucky and get someone in between, like a Brendan. Yeah, look, this is it for me. Like, I'm not going to get my fucking knickers in a twist about who the manager is, because at the end of the day, like, we're going to see so many come and go in this lifetime, and sometimes you just get really lucky. As you've said, sometimes you get Brendan in his first spell, even coming back to his second and delivering back-to-back doubles, but especially his first. How lucky were we? Treble, brilliant. Ange Postecoglou, Christ. Lightning struck twice when we got him. That was 2 world-class managers in the space of years. Are we going to keep that rate up? No, because people have been alive through other years. They've seen the Venglosses, they've seen the Barnes, they've seen the Mowbrays. Like, you're going to get it wrong sometimes. And, like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Cool, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't get behind it at first. There's no point in pissing your frillies about it. Honestly, like, if it's Nancy McKenna, whoever it is, cool. Let's go. Let's win games. I want to see them with trophies in the air. That's all I'm asking for. As long as they can deliver that, I will take it. Mark asking about Ange and taking a break. Is that 100%? So I did see quotes about Ange and a break, and it didn't come from Ange himself directly. It seems like it came from a close friend saying that Ange is on a break. And I think he also added a quote in about something about how he would maybe want to chance his luck back in England again. So there's no 100% confirm about that unless you hear it straight from the horse's mouth, Mark. But I think that it's very, very clear to see without a single mention, and I don't even know why I'm bringing it up really, because there's no point. Postecoglou is not going to be back at Celtic, and I don't think I need to clarify that for anybody, to be quite honest. Knutson, Nancy, McKenna in that order for Motto. That's a good order, an interesting order. I like it. I mean, as I said, I'd be happy with any of the three. River C saying we're completely dysfunctional. We shouldn't have to bet on a lucky coach, but that's the situation we're in. Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree, mate. I agree, and I said that. Was it yesterday's video? I said it. Like, this is like, so many Celtic fans can't warp their head around this because they're like blinded by the club that we are. I love Celtic. We're fucking huge. We're massive. And by that regard, we should be able to go and pay the money and get this guy. It's not as simple as that. And some fans just refuse to accept it. We can't just phone somebody and go, we're Celtic, we've got money, more to us. It's circumstantial. We are needing to take, and that's, I mean, I don't like that that's the situation we're in. I'm 100% with you, River C. Don't like it, but that is where we are. That is where we are as a club right now. Like, at this very moment. That just happens to be where we are. And I wish it wasn't like that, but there is so many elements of truth that goes alongside it, sadly. Matthew, thank you for the donation, mate. See Shin and the B team against East Kilbride, moan the Kilby, says Matthew. From what I heard, he wasn't very good, but then again, the B team aren't very good. They got scudded 4-0 off Clydebank, which is embarrassing. But I did see that. Matthew. I didn't watch any of the game, right enough. I didn't watch any of the game. He'll manage my team 5 out of 5. I really hope Fozzie stays. I seen he was getting linked with the Norwich City job, but I hope that doesn't happen and he stays at Celtic for a bit. That'd be fantastic. Jordy is 1888 saying bring in McKenna. So we've got a McKenna fan in the chat. Let's see. What else have we got? Liam Devine saying Nancy hasn't just been successful, it's been clearly down to his coaching. His sides play with a very obvious identity. That's the appeal. I like it. I just like, I like just seeing positivity around suggestions. Like, that's, whoever it is, I'm not going to moan about it. There's only one guy that I've made clear I wouldn't be happy with getting the Celtic job that's been mentioned in a realistic vein. Of course, there's ones that have been mentioned that I'm like, meh, about that haven't been very realistic. Like Gareth Southgate, for example. Like, I wouldn't want Gareth Southgate, but that was, I mean, what were the chances of Gareth Southgate getting the Celtic job, you know? So, I just like to see the positivity about things, and I can only encourage you all, go and do your reading, and if you drop an opinion you don't like them, cool, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't get behind them. What are you going to do? Start booing them? What are you going to do when we win games? Like, there's just no point. Ewan saying that Knutson or McKenna would be a statement appointment. Nancy is a massive risk, but would definitely be something different. This club needs fresh ideas. So a very different way of looking at both types of appointments, at least, and looking at the freshness that could be involved with an appointment like Nancy. But I agree, I think Knutson would be the biggest statement of them all. I think here's something that I'll make clear. Thank you, Aidan, for joining the 118 Club. Appreciate it, my man. Thanks for coming. God bless. And thank you to Niall for joining the 118 Club as well. A lot of new members tonight. Love that. Remember, we will be live right after this. You'll need to switch streams. We'll be over playing Football Manager. And you can join us there and we can talk more about things. And we also talk a lot of shite on these streams as well. Just non-Celtic related things to kind of break up the evening. I'll come back to Jack Strang's comment in a minute because I think it's very good. But I was going to say something right now about... And I've lost my train of thought. It was about Knutson and... that was my point I was going to make. I only think there's one appointment that brings a universal sense of kind of like happiness or satisfaction. I think there's only one appointment that really unites the support right now, and maybe Celtic try and push the boat out for that reason. And that is Knutson. Because Nancy has got a lot of critics, a lot of doubters, and so does McKenna. I think there's only one that unites the support. But this is what I do, and I'm not saying you need to do this, anybody at home sort of thing, but what I will say is that I just drown that out. I just drown it out, man. I mean, I'm not going if we wake up on Friday morning and at 10 o'clock, well, I don't wake up at 10 o'clock, right, but I'm just saying if we do wake up, and there's a statement sitting there, right? And it's, welcome to Celtic, Wilfred Nancy. There is going to be people retweeting it. There's going to be people quote tweeting it. There's going to be people under the comments. There's going to be people going into the weekend thinking, what a fucking shit show. And I just drown it out. I'm not going to let it affect me. I'm going to get behind the guy. I'm going to get behind him. I'm going to fucking wear it with like a badge of honour and see if it doesn't work. Sometimes things in life don't work. Simple as that. Can't be perfect all the time. We've been... I'm in danger of sounding like one of the fans that goes, I was there in the 90s. But we've been so spoiled. We have been. And I think we forgot what like lack of success feels like. And how a mistake feels like. Because we've very rarely made managerial mistakes. We made that big one in 2020 with Neil Lennon. We paid the price for it during a fucking global pandemic. But generally speaking, we very rarely make these mistakes. But I'm going to drown out the division. I'm going to drown out... Of course, I'll need to talk about it. It's my job. I commentate on the club. I commentate at what happens at the club. But there is such... Anybody, whether it's Knutson, Hyen, Postecoglou, whoever, they can get it wrong. Let's stop this game at pretending that a certain appointment has a 100% chance of getting it right. Nobody does. Not a single appointment gets a 100% pass rate and from the get-go. They don't. We don't know how it'll go. So stop pretending that we do know. Any of these guys getting the job can get it wrong. I think Knutson is by far the best candidate for the job. Like, without a shadow of a doubt. But let's flip it for a second, shall we? Let's flip it for a second. Let's play devil's advocate. I'm not trying to sell anybody in particular here, by the way. I'm just making the point. I'm just trying to make the point about all these candidates and the way that I look at things. I'm a glass half full guy. Just generally in life, I'm a very optimistic, very positive guy, right? Not to toot a horn or anything, but just I try and look at things as optimistically as I possibly can. But let's flip it for a second in regards to Knutson. We could easily say, that's a guy that's got very comfortable. That's a guy that's managed in one league. That's a guy that hasn't tested himself with big derby intense derbies like the Glasgow Derby. This is a guy that's only done it there. You could flip that. But I'm not going to, because I'm not a fucking idiot. So, like, it's as simple as that. And that's why I'm looking at anybody in a positive vein, quite frankly. Sell us Artur Boric for manager. How long have you got, Jamie? How long have you got? We could be here all day doing that. We could be here all day. And I think there's truth to the point that Ad says anyway. Like, it could be all irrelevant. It could be, because if the board don't back them, if the board don't let them bring in their ideas to the extent they should be allowed to bring in their ideas and to make their ideas flourish, then it's going to be all fucking worthless anyway. The board have got to make the appointment worthwhile. It's as simple as that. Right, we'll go for a couple more minutes before I'm starting to switch over to the Football Manager stream for this evening for channel members. We'll be live on there very, very soon. I mean, there you go, smell the glove. I couldn't word it any better myself, quite frankly. Do I think that Bernardo has done at Celtic? Yeah, I think so. But do you know what? I love Paulo Bernardo. I do. But I'm not going to act heartbroken about it because I do believe there's talent there. But we've not seen it enough. When he gets his chances, he's not took them. I think there's an element of that to be accepted. But for some reason, I don't think we do accept it. So, like, I will be a bit gutted, and especially if he goes on to do well somewhere. I'll be like, well, we've let a player go. But, like, I'm not going to sit here and act like he's been... Like, I keep going to one game, and it's that derby. Like, I can't just keep living off that one derby when it comes to Paulo Bernardo, to be quite honest. Let's finish off on Bailey's point for this stream tonight. Do you think that the club gets new board members before the end of the season, or how long do you think it takes to get new board members? I certainly don't have the answers to that question. I think if the rumours are to be believed, it sounds like there is going to be a shake-up there. I think it would be for the benefit of the club and everybody involved if we shook it up in every department and we just went fresh. Like, this is a chance to have an almost like a rebirth, you know? It's a chance to get rid of the old, bring in the new, both in a footballing sense with the change in the scouting department, the changes in the coaching department, and then in a business side of things, we could do that as well. It's time for Celtic to finally embrace modernity. It's time for Celtic to finally move into the 21st century. Do I have faith that the ones at the top are going to do that? Absolutely not. Can we keep pushing for it though? Absolutely. And we should. And that's why I keep reminding you, don't spend another penny in the club. Don't do this, don't do that. But we'll wait and see. Anyway, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'm going to head off and head on to the Football Manager stream for the next hour and a half over there, next 90 minutes. So, yeah, I'll see you there if you're a channel member. If not, we'll be back in the channel with regular videos throughout the week. And the podcast will be back as well. We're going to film an episode of the Celtic the Thunder for the first time in a couple of weeks tomorrow as well. So, I didn't even get to Jack Strang's point. I forgot. Who's my gut feeling? Who do I think it will be? In the last couple of hours, there's something telling me we're going to get Knutson, but I just don't see it. Nancy. I think it might be, and I've told you, I'm happy with.